So it's September 21st, and today what I'm doing is I'm going to be removing the Formic Pro pads, which are treatments for the bees for mites, and then also kind of seeing how we're doing as far as a fall flow, as to whether or not I'm going to be extracting honey. I'm going to start with this hive, which is what I call the Buckfast 3 hive. It's a Buckfast queen, which is from Canada. And I'm going to, again, have a look, see how they're doing in the upper super as well as the lower brood box, just to see, you know, are they gearing up for winter? What are their reserves like? Is it something I feel like I can start to extract, or do I want to wait? So that's kind of the plan right here, is just to remove the pads and then evaluate. So kind of looking down in here, I can see that this is capped honey. That's capped honey. They're working on these other frames, and I'll have a better idea of the volume in these once I pull this this box off. I still have a queen excluder on, so if I end up pulling some of these frames to harvest, and I can then just take the honey frames that are here and remove them and put them into the lower box. Or I can, I mean, I have plenty of options. I can harvest it, I can not harvest it. I'm going to end up needing to check the moisture content. So as far as how I want to proceed right at this moment, again, there's probably 2 capped honey frames in here right now. This one and this one. So I could kind of get at it that way, or I could pull the whole thing off, kind of determine how much is in there just by the weight, and then remove the Formic Pro pads in the bottom, evaluate how much honey they have down there. So I think that's actually the way I'm going to go about it, is kind of pull off this box and then evaluate what I'm looking at in the lower section. It's stuck on there pretty good. They're, as far as what I remember, they're pretty good as far as producing propolis. And propolis is just how they connect their hives together. All right, so I'll have to remove that queen excluder after I'm done. So kind of looking at this, what do I see? I see some empty frames over here. They're chewing away on those wafers. Good population. You know, we're talking 8 frames of population if I add in the like 2 to 3 frames up there. So that's about what you want. You want to have 10 frames, maybe a little less at this time. And I'm not going to smoke a ton of smoke here. I'm just trying to do just enough to get them away from this pad so I can take it off. And they typically eat through or just remove this paper, but I can do that for them. And you know, a lot of people say that the smoke calms the bees down. I don't really think that's true. I think what it does is gets them out of the way. They don't like the smoke. But if you ever smoke a hive and then go to touch it, they're kind of riled up. They don't really enjoy being smoked. So I tend to try to use less than more if I can, unless there's something I really need to be using a lot of smoke for, because I don't think they really enjoy it. So anyway, based on what I'm looking at here, I do want to evaluate how much honey they have in that brood box. So I am going to need to break that hive apart a bit and kind of have a look at it. And I don't want to, I'm just going to smoke them just so I don't crush them when I put this frame holder on there. Move, thank you. So I'll start with the outside frames and just work my way in. And you can see these frames are pretty well stuck together at this point with propolis. So I'm going to have to kind of crack them to get everything apart before I really get into it. And they're still pretty friendly. Like, I think my experience, which is limited, is that the later the season, the more they're just kind of like ready for me to not be messing around with their hive. But it's still early enough where they're not going to get super pissy about me being in here. So they're even drying out still, which is good. And it's like late September. Oops. So that's a positive. They're drying out both of these. And I can see capped honey on this one. It's not full by any means, but there is some honey in there. So just having a look. Just some honey in the very top. They're not really packing anything. There's no wet nectar in here. Which is fine. You know, they might be doing it in a different, storing wet nectar in a different area. Or further in the nest, further in the hive. So again, I do end up smoking a lot overall, but I try not to just flood them in the beginning like I've seen a lot of people tend to do. I don't know, that's just the way I do it. I don't feel like it's really necessary. Okay, so this one you can see they're packing honey. And I'm also kind of just having a look on, how are they doing? Are they packing any pollen? Is there a queen kicking around here? How are they doing with propolis? You can see on this corner here, a lot of propolis as well as wax on the top here, which, a lot of times what I'll do is clean it up as I'm going, just to kind of make it so it's easier to deal with later. But so far looking okay. And since I'm not a commercial beekeeper, I don't have to do this in like record time. I can spend my time. I actually enjoy doing this, even though at times there is, it's like kind of a pain. But in general, I enjoy it. So here you can see there's some dead brood. Oh no, that's not dead. That's actually a baby right there, trying to make its way out. There's another one right there. It's pretty cool. So she's chewing her way out, and so is that one. And there's no queen on this frame. Nothing I'm seeing. This side, again, more babies kind of hatching out, I can see. But again, no queen, and everybody's pretty chill. There is a difference here, like compared to what's been going on around this bee yard. There's been these bald-faced wasps that have just been a nightmare, and they set up all the hives to be a little more protective or aggressive, which really becomes a nuisance, just to kind of do what I need to do to get in here and not get, stung a bunch of times, because they kind of probably look at this as like, someone invading their territory. Just looking in here, I see a bunch of larvae. So she's still laying, which is great. So this will be cap brood soon, but you can, I don't know if you can see it or not, but inside there is little tiny C-shaped, almost looking like worms. And those are what they call larvae. So, and then on the other side here, it's pollen and nectar. So they're looking good. They don't have a ton of honey, so taking a bunch of their stores wouldn't really be a great idea. But this is a decent pollen frame. You can see they're packing pollen in there. And this will be a frame of capped brood in the next, probably week and a half. So the rest of it looks as though it's mostly the same kind of stuff as I'm looking at right now, which is, larvae. I'll just pull at least one more frame just to kind of have a quick look. Yeah, this one is emerging brood. And this one is all stages of different bees. I can see larvae, capped stuff. A lot of times when you just, like I just finished doing this Formic Pro treatment, so a lot of times the queen will kind of stop laying when that's going on. So that could be the other portion of what's happening here, is that the queen pretty much stops laying. I just want them to get off of here so I can skim this, get it away, or get it off of the top of the frame here. Alrighty, so I know there's a queen. I can see that she's doing what she should do. She's laying nicely. They don't have much in the way of honey. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those honey frames, I'm going to put them down here, and then just kind of rearrange this slightly. So what I'm doing right now is just trying to move them out of the way so that when I push these back together, I'm not crushing a bunch of bees and setting off alarm pheromone. So there we go. And this will be the last frame that I kind of push over there like that. I could even lift it if I wanted to. Sometimes I'll wear, the thicker gloves at this time of year just because they do tend to get a little more kind of active. Not necessarily like angry, but, just more not excited about you being in their hive. So, if I start getting stung a lot, I'd probably go toward that. But at the moment, they're still pretty calm. I mean, they're not freaking out just yet. They are just getting a little louder. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these two outside frames here because they're not really doing much with them. And the other thing, the reason they might have just got loud is they might have just crushed a few bees that I'm unaware of. So that would definitely make them a little more kind of ornery. So what I'm going to do now is check the honey box down here, the super, and just kind of see, can I take some of this and put it into the brood box. So the way I'm going to go about this is to just pop a frame or two out so I have a little more space to work with in here. And then see about pulling out a honey frame or two. So this one here, as you can see, has a little bit of honey in it in the middle and on the bottom. So, you know, I could put this one in here if I wanted. It's fine. Because they're not going to really fill it in the next, in a short amount of time or anything like that. So, oops. So there, and probably want to see about at least one other good honey frame for them, because I want to give them as much as I can. The other thing I could do is just feed them and let them kind of store it all up however they feel like they need to, and not take any of their honey. You know, leave it for them.